Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos. Okay, we are recording. This is episode
Yay.
15.
15? Wow. I remember when we started this, I was like,
Wow.
I wonder how many we'll have. I mean, 15 is not a ton, but 15 is...
No,
We haven't
but
given
it's a
up.
lot,
We're still
you know?
here. We
haven't missed a week. We haven't. I'm excited. 15 is good.
15 is really good.
Great. And this week we are sharing something super mind-blowing because it's very quick and easy. For me personally, I'm going to be doing this every week, every Monday, setting it up. I have the sheet printed and I'm going back and forth between whether I want to keep a written paper copy every week to kind of look back on, or if I want to laminate it and be able to clear it off.
If you're on YouTube, this is how I do mine. And Brenna, I don't know if I ever showed you this. Mine's right there. So I show last week and this week. I need to adjust it a little bit, size it down. I just threw it up there the week we learned this, and don't mind the pile of stuff that needs to be gotten rid of. So what we are talking
about a 7-minute pipeline review.
Yes, we are talking, and Sharran.
Wait. Did you hear it?
So we are talking about Sharran Srivatsaa. Sharran, I apologize if I butchered your last name. I'm trying really hard. His 7-minute pipeline review. And this is something you should do at the beginning of your work week, whether it's on Monday or you start your week on Wednesday, to figure out where you are, what you have, what's potentially coming, where you're going, and what your current volume, done, closed is for the year. I never did this until he taught it, beginning of October, probably?
Yes. Yeah, it was the beginning of October, I think.
Yeah, and I've done it weekly since, maybe bi-weekly sometimes because of holidays, and it really helped me go, oh, I'm further along than I thought I was. To me, I thought I was so far behind, but nope, went through this and I was like, oh, okay, I'm actually where I wanted to be. But it helps you stay focused. And every Monday I go through it. I know today is today only Tuesday? It is. Okay. I keep thinking today's Wednesday. This whole holiday thing has me all screwed up. But I go through it right? I go through it every week, and it helps me realize where I'm at, where I'm going, and what I need to focus on this week. What's important. Because if I don't have a buyer coming up or someone going under contract, then that's probably what I should focus on or a listing versus getting a new person in the pipeline. I need to get within my pipeline to where they need to be. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, there are 2 ways you can listen to this podcast. 1, stop right here, email us or send us a DM on our social media, and we will send you the template so you can see this. Or 2, listen to it, then email us or send us a DM on our socials, and we will send you a template and come back and listen to it again so you can see. Because I don't think even on the YouTube right now, because guys, we've been honest from the beginning, we're not the most technical sometimes.
Still learning.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if we know how to share this yet. So.
Yeah. So the idea is, so you got columns, but they're broken up by a horizontal axis. The top is the number of, your listings, your active buyers, your active listings, your under contract, and your sold. And then underneath that line is the actual volume of those. So say, we'll just do easy numbers. Say your average price point is 500,000. So you have 2 listings coming soon. So the number 2 goes on top, and 500,000 times 2, that's 1 million in volume underneath there, right? So we go through each of these categories and then figure it out at the end. But that's how the number of what it is and the volume is on the bottom.
Right.
Number on the top, volume on the bottom.
So your top row is there's five categories. Listings coming soon. It would be the number of listings. So like Brenna said, 2 or wherever you're at. Then it's active buyers. So how many buyers do we actively have? Active number of listings. So if you have 2 signs in the yard, it's 2. Number of under contract and number sold year to date. Then that second row is going to be the same categories, but we're putting the dollar amount. So if your listings are worth $1 million right now, the listings that you have coming soon, the first one is the dollar amount of listings coming soon. The second column is dollar amount of active buyers. Third is dollar amount of active listings. So if those two signs that you have in the yard are both worth 500, then that would be a million. The dollar amount under contract and their dollar amount sold year to date. Now, one way to one up this is wherever you're tracking this, like I have mine tracked on a whiteboard, Brenna has a printout, maybe a laminate. I have two of these. So I have what it looked like last week and this week. So each week I move it up and I can see, okay, this is where I was. What's changed this week? Because to me, that gives me a little more perception on where I am, where I've been, where I'm going.
And I think
Um,
that that's important too because for me, last year, I had a lot of death in my family last year. It was
yes,
the
you had a
amount of
hard year.
times I had to go home for a funeral, and home for me is in Maine, so it's a minute. I can literally pinpoint. I was like, oh yeah, no, I was gone that weekend for a funeral. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because 90 days later, I'm like, where's the business?
right. And you could, I
So
mean, if you wanted to, you could, if you're someone who is not great with spreadsheets, okay, print this out every week, put it in a little binder. Like, and then you can flip through and see this is where I was, this is, where I am. Like, there's a lot of ways you could utilize this.
yeah, and that's like so in the beginning when I said I'm going back and forth between laminate or a print. I think I'm going to do printed and save them. But now that I saw your dry erase board, I love dry erase boards.
Right?
So I'm going to have one of those that I can easily do. But I
Yes.
think keeping it to look back and be like that was June and July are really slow, or you know what I mean? To
Right.
be able to pinpoint your pain spots or where you really succeeded, what timelines and things like that. I think that's a big thing. But doing it every week, I think just really keeps you accountable, especially for us doing like the 12-week year and those specific goals keeps you accountable for what we are doing and staying on task. Um and I know agents that like I was talking to one a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, I don't know how much volume I did. I
Right.
I don't I don't know how many houses I sold, and I'm like, wow.
Right. And to be honest, to be transparent, I was that person. I was the person that anytime someone asked, I had to like go back through MLS and count them. Well, no, I can tell you
Mhm.
right now, I did 4.175 million this year because
Mhm.
it's totaled year to date in that last block. Like I updated it last week before the new year. Now I'm going to go wipe this down today once I record another video about it. But I did 4.175. And that makes me happy. That's what
That's
I
great.
needed. That's more than what I needed to survive this year. So we're good. Now, the second element of this is your pipeline review. So we've gone over in this table what you're currently working with. But the pipeline review to or value is a circle with a line through it, kind of almost looks like real estate math. And again, it's the number on top, the dollar on the bottom, and then two antenna come out kind of like a ladybug, Sharran said, because it's his daughter's favorite. And it's the same thing with your goals. What is your goal for the year? So that one won't change unless you adjust your goals. Hey, if your goal is 25 million and you hit that in June and you're like, well, I don't really want to take the rest of the year off, then obviously adjust that goal. That's fine.
Mhm.
But it's still going to be that number amount and that dollar amount. So but in the circle is where you currently are. So if you have 5 people in your pipeline, that would be a 5. And based on their budget, that total is worth 1.5 million, then that's what goes in the bottom of that circle. So you can keep track of your pipeline.
Yeah, it's just like a side by side weekly comparison. So to the right, like where you said the antenna are, your goal numbers say would be 25 transactions for the year, and I want to hit 6 million in volume. So you'd have the 25 at the top, 6 million underneath there. And then inside the ladybug is where you actually are at. So for me, I mean, right now we're recording this on the 2nd of January. So I have my pipeline is 8 right now. The number is 8 and the volume is still 0 because I haven't closed anything. I have the
Well, you're
projected volume, but
right.
the sold year to date is still a 0.
Right. So mine in the circle, I use the bottom as what that pipeline is possibly worth.
Okay.
So like if I know what the budget is for those 8 clients, and say those 8 people that you have in your pipeline, you know their budget right now, right? Like
Right.
if they're pre-qualified, we know their budget. That's what goes in that bottom. And
Yep. So
then,
then I guess that, yeah, that's the visual to see how close you are
right,
to
to
being on
see,
track for the total,
right. Like
the
this is
total
where
for the end of
we're,
the year.
yeah. And that pipeline's going to change weekly because some of those people are going to move up into that table of becoming active buyers or active listings. So it kind of shuffles. So that's the pipeline value helps you figure out, okay, what's potentially coming. And then you move them. That's my understanding of it, move them into that table once they're active.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the third part of this is the solves, the updates on the operations. And that's where we look at this. We look at both of these tables and we say, okay, how do I solve whatever is happening on a deal by deal basis? What needs to happen here to get it closed, to get them under contract? Is it we need, it could be as simple as we need to get them a pre approval or we need to get them first time home buyer assistance. Like, what is that deal by deal daily basis? What's happening?
Yeah, we need a appraisal packet. We need like all of those things. This is the weekly to-do list. Once you figure out your numbers and everything like that, then you take it deal by deal. And I have to solve this problem. We have to appeal an appraisal. We have to go over the home inspection, like things like that. And then you've got your updates. So for me, every Monday, my listings, I'll get an update of what happened the previous week as far as showings, feedback, that kind of thing. Um, and then operations is like the pain points where you're like, man, I really needed an email template for this because I do it every week and I'm still spending 8 minutes typing it out instead of
Right.
having a setup plug and play
Right. Or
thing.
maybe like if you maybe it's you identifying, okay, I'm ready for a transaction coordinator or I need to get into this MLS, this neighboring MLS because I have a lot of people starting to ask me to work there and it's really not that far. Like what operationally as a business do you need to do to improve this?
Mm-hmm. And that, like this list, the solves, updates, and operations, like I said, it's a to do list. And at that point, you can easily transfer that time, that list into, you know, for me, the updates is going to be my Monday at 10 a.m., because that's when I do that. And you plug that information into your already blocked out time throughout the week, get it done, start it over the next week. And it keeps you involved in your transactions, involved in your business, working in your business, and just like I said, keeps you really accountable to what's actually happening in your business.
Yep. And it's if you've been looking for a system, if you keep hearing people say, I need a system, I need a system, I don't know, what do I do every day? Like, what do I do when I'm done cold calling or when I'm done networking or whatnot? This is your system. This is so easy. And like Brenna said, it tells you what you're going to do daily and weekly because it identifies it right there. And then once it's
Mm-hmm.
done, you can go on to doing other things. You're not questioning or playing catch up or rushing around. Like, I love this. This is this has improved my business and my life so much since he
I
taught
know
us
I've
this.
I've only been using it for what, two months? Two
Mm-hmm.
months and I'm already like wildly excited about it.
Yeah, I've
Wildly
been
excited
using
to use it
it.
for an entire year.
Yeah, I've been using it since the day he taught it. Like literally, I watched the training when the recording came out like an hour later. I went back through it, set up my whiteboard, and was like, okay, here's what we do because it makes sense. Um,
Yeah,
now,
it does. I also liked the prospects that he
yes,
did, and we're about to we're gonna start that now. Okay,
yes, that's
so
what I was gonna say.
five
Now, the other
star,
thing I love,
yeah, it's 5-star prospects, and I like so mentally, I know I can gauge client interaction like from a sign call, from a Facebook lead, like that kind of thing. But having him actually write it down, and I'm like, oh wow, I love this for me. So there's 5-star. You want a 5-star prospect, right?
right?
That 5-star prospect is your right now moneymaker.
Yes,
Do
yep,
you want to go? Do you want to go through
yeah,
the stars?
they're your MVP. So yes, so this is how we're gonna qualify the people in your pipeline. Um, a 1 star is they're willing to engage in dialogue. So you've reached out and they're like, hey, what's up? A 2 is they're friendly and collaborative. Like they're responding, they're having conversations with you. Um, A 3, they know what they want. So they know they want a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath on an acre, whatever. They know what they want. A 4, they know when they want that. So a 2 would be, or excuse me, a 3 would be like, yeah, we want the 2-bedroom house, but we don't know when, or we're not ready. A 4 is like, yeah, we want that 2-bedroom house and we know we want to do it next year, which by the way, we're in January or February
Mm,
now when this comes out. It's next year. You need to be calling these people back.
yep.
Um, or they're like, hey, we're ready to go now. But what moves them from a 4 to a 5 is they say, and we want to work with you. We want you to help us make this happen. And so
Yep.
those are the prospects. So you can filter them. And to figure them out, there's a couple ways to do it. The big one is using those sorting questions to see where they're at. Brenda, do you want to cover what the sorting questions are?
Yeah, so one of my favorites that he said is actually, is this a 2023 project or are we doing this in 2024? And this was quarter 4 actually last year when we were talking about it. So I don't know that I would start the conversation this year with like, are we looking at this year or next year, because it's the beginning of this year. So I might say, is this a springtime project or are we waiting until after the kids go back to school?
Right,
Something along to shorten it up, because that's going to say, oh, well, actually, we weren't going to do it until after Christmas next year.
right.
And that'll lead into our mapping in just a second. But the other one is, and I love this, instead of
This is my
saying,
favorite. This is my
are you
absolute
working with a
favorite.
realtor? Alyssa, are you working with a realtor?
Ugh. I don't know. What does that mean? What does working with a realtor mean?
Right, right. So everybody says that. Everybody asks, are you working with a realtor? Have you spoken to a lender? Right? Those are run of the mill questions for our industry, but let's change it a little bit. How about you ask somebody? Just think of how different this sounds when you say, has anyone taken the time to sit down and walk you through what it takes to buy or sell a home in today's market?
It seems like as soon as he said it, I was like, duh. Like that makes more sense.
That's nurturing.
Because,
That's helpful.
right.
That's
And,
like, oh, wow, no, nobody sat down. 3 people have asked me if I'm working with a realtor, and one tried to send me a lender.
right. And I think to me, the one thing I often forget, and I sat down with a friend who's a first time home buyer a couple weeks ago, and I went through the whole thing. And he literally looked at me and was like, what does that mean? I don't understand. And I was
I
like,
think a lot of
shit.
people forget that.
Right.
We live in this industry. We work here every day. This is what we do for a living. 93% of the people in the world don't understand what it takes
Right.
to buy
And
or
like,
sell a home.
and to take it a little out of context, but I think an example that translates is he's a CrossFit coach. And when I started CrossFit, he wasn't my coach then. But I remember a coach yelling at me every time I did this lift and saying, get under the bar, get under the bar. And I finally one day just slammed the bar down and went, I don't know what that means. You can give me all of these cues because you've been doing this for a decade now, but I'm new and I don't know what that means. And I think the other thing we forget, a lot of us like to work with people moving up and down or resizing. They haven't done it in 5, 10, 15 years, if not more. Like my mom's a classic. My mom hasn't bought a house in 30 years. She just bought one. And her agent didn't walk her through it. She just said, okay, sign this. This is what you need to do, blah. And my mom kept calling me and being like, what does that mean? It not only helps you qualify where they're at, but it helps you determine the path you're going to take to get them there.
Hmm.
Okay, where does this conversation go from here? Because if someone
Right.
has, then it's a different conversation versus no, I've never bought a house, or no, I haven't bought one in a while and I haven't talked to anyone about it yet. 7-1-15 power of hour. Because I
Do you
think
want to do
that should.
that first, or do you want to do the like December or January through December writing the names out first?
Ooh, let's do that. And I think I just put this because I kept going with a great flow with him on taking notes. I think this
Hmm.
should be a different episode.
Oh, great. Okay, so come back for the 7-1-15.
I just think it's too much to put into one.
It is a lot. It's such good information, but I
I
agree. I
don't want
think
to
it
rush through it.
needs its own moment. So after all of this, when you're going through your pipeline, you have your to-do list set up for the week, and you are now able to sort your prospects into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star prospects. We are going to move those into your pipeline, your year overview,
Yes.
because this is where follow up comes into play and where a lot of people leave money on the table and lose business because you say, "Oh yeah, no, I we're actually not going to start looking at houses until after school gets out." That's June, right? Me, I'm busy from January to June. I'm still talking to them, sure, but that's where people get lost because come June, when you haven't talked to them in 6 months and you're like, "Hey, are you ready to buy a house?" And they're like, "Actually, we found one in May with our cousin."
Right.
So this is very important. It's very simple. You're going to get a piece of paper, or like Alyssa and soon to be me, we're going to get a
Oh, wait
dry
for it.
erase board and you're going to write out the 12 months of the year. Okay, starting with January because we're in January down through December. And based on your prospect list, you are going to write out the people who are looking to buy or sell and what their timeline is. So for me, if somebody says that they're going to start looking to move after school gets out, I'm involved with them starting in April.
Yeah.
That's 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. Okay. I had, there's actually, I'll have a listing coming soon here, and they weren't ready. This was like 4 months ago. But we waited a couple months and then I was like, here I am with your information right when you're ready. And then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we're ready and we're grateful. I think that that makes a huge difference because like we were talking about a couple of episodes ago with database and like doing these fun things and staying in front of clients, you don't want to be 3 minutes too late.
Right.
You want to be proactive. So having this listed out, that's going to map out your weekly follow-up, what you're who you're touching, I hate that, who you're reaching out to, because if somebody's not looking to do anything for a year, I'm only going to reach out to them every month or so and just say hi.
Hmm.
Hey, I saw that Jimmy's soccer game went really well, that's exciting. But those people that are right now, I know that they're looking because it's 2024 and they wanted to move this spring. Those are people I'm following up with on a weekly basis. And as we start house searching, sometimes a daily basis. But that's just a good visual because then if you're looking, you're like, oh, wow, I don't have anybody written down for August or September. You need to start
Right. You need to find
being
those people to
proactive.
fill that spot.
You need to fill in that blank. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Or like I even just had it come up. I have a client who's relocating from up north, and she told me, "Well, we'll worry about this in March or April." Thankfully, I'd stayed in contact and I have her in my timeline. I put her in January because I put my people where I want to start interacting with them.
Yep, that's what
And
I do.
2 weeks ago, like the middle of the Christmas holiday, hey, this listing came up. What do we have to do to make that work? And I was like, you're not supposed to talk to me for another month. I mean, granted, I'm
Right.
interacting, but it was just like, wait, what? So they can change. So if you're not having those interactions or keeping an eye on them, they're going to be gone. They're going to go with the other agent who did send the postcard, who sent the email. So just this is a great way to see what's coming and to make sure you're paying attention to them.
So I told you I had a buyer reached out to me from Germany. I told you this. I had a buyer consultation with a lady from Germany.
I don't think you
She
told
her
me this.
husband's originally from Concord. They've been overseas, assignment overseas for the last 3 years. They want to move back, but Concord isn't what it was 3 years ago
No.
or when he was a kid. So they want to move to Hickory. She found me online from my Facebook. That's cool. But anyways, she was saying that they're planning to move in June. They were here the first week of December. I got to meet them and we had a buyer consultation and things like that. We talked, but I started I set them up on their email that they wanted, and then I reached out to her and come to find out they might be ready to move in February. February and June is very, very different.
Yes.
If I hadn't been in front of them, I could have missed it completely because their timeline has changed
Mm-hmm.
potentially drastically if it works out the way that they think it is now.
Yep. Yep. I actually, when we were talking about this, I pulled my notebook out because I hosted, and this is another way to find these people. We hosted a community yard sale last spring, and someone there was like, "Oh yeah, we're getting rid of," because they had a ton of stuff. And we're like, "Were you guys moving? What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, we want to sell in January." Well, guess who I'm calling this week? Hey guys, I know you've seen me do other stuff in your community. I've been around. Are you guys still interested? Because I'd love to talk to you about this.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and I have them on that timeline. I had to post it and in the name and address in the notebook of like, okay, let's do this. So this is a great way to, like, I have a friend who said, I'm probably going to change jobs in January and I may have to sell my house. Well, I saw him at a Christmas party and he was like, oh yeah, I've decided to quit. And I'm like, okay, so where are we at? Are we doing this? Are we
Right.
holding? What are we doing? Um, but I actually need to touch base with him because he said something along the lines of, well, I've figured it out. I have 6 months of expenses before I'm done. So I'm like, okay, well, we probably should talk in like month 2 just in case. See where you're at. How's the new
Right.
job going? Like, because he's starting his own business. Like, okay, let's talk a little sooner than we get to that 6 month point and you're underwater. But again,
Broke.
this is how I keep, because I'll be honest, until I had this, I forgot about them. I'd go, oh crap, it's August, and they said they wanted to sell. Hey guys, well, they're probably already gone. Or I totally missed it and was just like, oops. This is a
Yeah, I
great
can't
way.
tell you how many I saw like a post on Facebook like, "Oh, we just moved." And I was like, "Ah,
Yep.
I never
Yep.
They're 2 months too early."
Yes.
So, that didn't happen last year. It's not going to happen this year.
Nope. I am far more organized this year, thankfully. So, but that is a
Yeah.
7 minute pipeline review. Um, we do it every Monday. You do it on, a lot of us don't have a Monday through Friday schedule. So you do it on whatever day you consider your Monday.
Right.
And it's
Right.
going to set your week for you. And make it, don't get me wrong, there's still things that are going to come up, the surprises. Like last week, I got a surprise. Hey, I'm going to sell my house. Can you put a sign in the yard? And I was like, wait, what? But this is going to, someone that wasn't even in my pipeline that just came out of the blue, thankfully. But this is going to set you up so that you're not constantly being a Pop Tart, not lost in where things are. So you know what's potentially coming. You can track, you can potentially budget. I don't want to say count your chickens before they've hatched, but it
Right.
gives you the overall picture of your business so you know where you're at and what you need to improve on or where you need to
Mhm.
back off.
And it literally doesn't take any more than 5
No.
to 7 minutes.
The
It really, really doesn't.
right.
Once you have the graph set up that you can just plug and play, it's very easy.
And
Very easy.
yeah, and I would say the first couple weeks might take you 10 to 15 just because you're getting used to it and you need to go look back through things. But after that, it's so easy. It's plug and play. It's super simple and it works. That's the most important part. It works.
10 out of 10. We recommend.
Yes. 10 out of 10. Yes. And on that note, we will see you next week. I
Next
hope you have a
week.
great week. I hope your year is off to a lovely start.
All right, happy Tuesday. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.